What's up guys, and welcome back to part 15 of this Mercedes minibus campervan conversion. So in today's episode I'm going to be fitting a brand new Truma 10 litre Ultrastore hot water heater. The hot water heater is going to be providing all of the hot water for within the campervan, for the shower unit and for the sink, when obviously the sink's in place as well. Now I'm going to be fitting this Truma 10 litre Ultrastore hot water heater at the rear of the vehicle, hopefully round about in that far end corner. You might have seen in the previous episode I've already got the Shurflo water pump and the Fiamma water accumulator mounted in place, and I've got a little bit of hose over there ready to feed the cold water into the hot water heater as well. So the heater's roughly going to get mounted in that corner. I'm going to have to drill a couple of holes through the timber clad wall all the way through to the external wall, and that's where the exhaust cowl will be fitted for the heater as well, because these are fully sealed units with all of the exhaust combustion air being exited out externally to the vehicle. So it's going to be a relatively big job. Should be relatively straightforward though. I have fitted one of these in the previous minibus conversion that I've done as well, and as I say, they're relatively straightforward, but they are slightly complicated in that you've got both gas, electric and water connections going to them as well. But as long as you go relatively slowly, take your time with them, they are relatively easy enough to get installed. Now if you're looking for one of these heaters yourself, have a look in the description below. I'll link across to exactly the same place where I bought this particular unit from. As you can see, this one's brand new. It's just arrived after ordering it last week online, and now I'm going to get it fitted into place. So as I say, if you're in the market for one of the Truma Ultrastore hot water heaters, click the link below and that'll go to exactly the same place where I bought this one from as well. Now it is very cold in the conversion at the moment as well. As you can see, I've got a full layer of ice and frost on the windscreen of the vehicle, and I've got a little heater there just trying to warm up the workspace because it is that cold this morning. But the conversion's not going to convert itself, so we still need to crack on regardless of the weather conditions and the temperature. So I'm going to get this unit unboxed, get some safety gear out, some tools out, do some test fittings first, and then hopefully by the end of this video we'll have a fully fitted Truma hot water heater ready to provide hot water to both the shower and the sink unit when it's all ready to be fitted in and running. So let's get cracked on. Right, so before I start mounting the actual Truma water heater, I've just built a little stand for it to sit on under the sofa bed, because when I fitted one of these in the last minibus that I did, I realised that the heater had to be lifted up off the floor by about 3 inches or so. Otherwise, when the cowl, the cover that goes on the exterior of the vehicle, when that gets fitted, on the buses that I'm converting at the moment, the fiberglass panels on the outside have a bit of a recess. So unless the tank is lifted, the cowl that will be going through would cut halfway through the recess and it won't fit flush on the exterior of the vehicle. So as I say, I've just made a quick little stand there with some CLS timber with a bit of ply on top, and this is going to get a couple of holes drilled in for the drain plug that connects to the water heater, and I'll still be able to run any of the pipe work through this as well. But it means that it's getting it raised off the floor just those few inches, and it means that I should be able to miss the recess panel on the outside of the vehicle. I'll just take you outside and I'll show you what I mean. So as you can see, the panel of the bus has this little circular recess going in it, and if the water heater was mounted, the cowl would cover half the bottom and half the top, and where you've got this bit of a lip, the cowl just won't sit flush against it. So just by raising the water heater up a couple of inches, it'll make the cowl fit in this fully flat section of the panel, so there won't be any cowl covering over the recess, so it should just fit nice and flat and flush as well. As I learnt this on the previous one, so I'm just trying to carry on from what I've learnt from the previous conversions I've done, just to make life that little bit easier. So with that little stand made, I can now get this screwed down to the floor. That's why I've just drilled a few holes there, so I can get some nice big long screws in and drive them down, and then this will be fully secure, and then the Truma water heater will then get mounted to this mounting plate as well. So I'm going to get this down in place down there. and then it's going to be the arduous task of drilling holes through the side of the vehicle. So let's get cracked on. Right, so now I've got the mount for the water heater fitted in and securely in place. This mount isn't going anywhere at all. I've just drilled the first hole through the interior and exterior panels. Now as you can see, the drain hole on the heater actually protrudes from the cowl itself. So to be able to get the cowl up against the wall to draw around where it needs cutting out, the first hole does need to be poked for the drain hole, so that can sit inside the wall, so I can then start drawing around the proper outline for the cowl, and then that's going to be cut out next as well. So as I said, this is the scary part really, cutting holes in the walls both internally and externally, but as long as you measure 2-3 times, hopefully you'll get it right the first time round. As I say, where that hole's poked out on the exterior, it's exactly where I wanted it. It's above the recess that I mentioned earlier on. So now I'm going to poke this little drain hole into the hole, draw around the cowl and get that cut out as well. Right, so that's the hole for the cowl and the drain plug both cut and drilled in, but as you can see I'm just a little bit off from being completely flush with the panel itself. Now that's probably because of all the timber cladding that's on the inside. Now when I bought this heater I did buy an extension cowl as well, because I did think I was going to be a little bit short, but the extension cowl that comes with the Truma water heaters is 5 centimeters deep, and as you can see I'm only round about 1 centimeter or so short. So if I put the extension on, that would actually protrude out around about 4 centimeters too far. So instead, what I'm going to do is get back in, and I'm going to cut around the cladding where the water heater pushes up against the wall. As you can see, there's a little lip going all the way around that side. So if I just do a trim into the cladding, all the way down and round the side, I'll be able to push the heater even further into the wall, and that should get it flush with the external wall as well. So I'm going to get some tools out and get some of this cladding trimmed out so I can push the heater further in. Then I'll be able to get the cowl secured on the outside and then start working on the electrics, the gas, the water, things like that. But first things first, I need to get it fitted into the wall to be sure it's in the right place. So as I say, I'm just going to draw around the frame here, take some of this cladding off, then I can push the heater in, then we can get the cowl on and crack on with everything else. So I'll get some tools out, get this marked out, get this cut out. Right, so I've cracked on and I've actually cut out some of the timber cladding that I mentioned just before, and now that that's been cut out, the heater is fully flush with the external panel as well. So if I push this back in again, I'll just show you on the outside. So that's it, pretty much flush up against the wall inside the cladding there. And if we take you on the outside, you can see that this is now pretty much flush with the panel, and by the time the cowl is screwed on, that will pull it fully flush with the panel itself, and the drain holes poking out just nicely as well. So now this is all lined up and pretty much fully flush. Now I can get the cowl fitted on, and then I can start on with the gas, the electrics and the water pipe work as well. But this was the main job for today. I wanted to make sure that this hole is fully covered with the cowl and fully sealed round, just so no water can get in, because I didn't want to leave this hole open overnight. So let's crack on, get the cowl attached, and then we can do the other bits and bobs of the water heater. Right, so there's the external cowl, fully secured, fully waterproof as well. It's had a full bead of sealant going all the way around the hole that was cut, and then all the additional screws that have mounted the cover on, they've also had sealant behind them as well. So there's no chance of any water getting in anywhere on here. So the only thing left to do now is to just put the cover on, and that makes it waterproof and watertight. So that's the external of the water heater, fully mounted. So now time to get back inside, start doing the gas work, the water pipes and the electrics as well. But it's coming along quite nicely, so let's get cracked on with some of the inside work. Right, so now the water heater is fully fitted with the cowl fitted on the external as well. Now I'm going to start running some of the cabling. I'm going to put the controls at the very back wall above the sofa bed, because the cabling that comes with the hot water tank, you don't get that much cable, probably around about 2-3 meters, something like that. So it has to go around this area somewhere, and I figure if it goes against the back wall, I can run all the cables down behind the original fiberglass panelling. That's why I left some of the cladding off at the bottom, so I can get the cables ran up. And as you can see, I've got a bit of string going all the way from the top to the bottom, so I can run the cables through, down, and then once the cables are out that hole, I'll be able to get that little section cladded and neatened up as well. So first things first, I'm going to cut a couple of hole size holes into this wall, because these are the controls and they're just little circular controls, so they need like a 50mm hole saw cutting through. Then we'll be able to get the cables run behind them, down the wall, connected to the heater as well. So let's get cracked on and get a couple of holes drilled in the wall. Right guys, so that'll do it for today. It's starting to get a bit dark now, so I'm going to pick it back up again tomorrow. But that's the main part of the job pretty much complete. I've got the water heater mounted in, cut around with the cowl, and the cowl's all mounted on the exterior. I've also got the controls in the wall with the cables fed down, and they're just poking out that little hole there. And I've also cladded that little bit that was underneath the bed that was still left to be cladded up. So tomorrow I'm going to be getting the connections put onto the water heater, getting the 12 volt fed across to it, the 240 line as well, get some of the water connected up. I won't be able to get it fired up yet because I don't have the gas fully fitted inside the van yet, but at least it'll be ready to get fired up once the gas is fitted in. So that's not a bad day's job so far. As I say, I'll pick it up again tomorrow and we'll crack on and hopefully get this job fully finished. Right guys, so it's the following day. I've got some nice bright daylight again, so I'm not going to recap what you've just seen. As I said yesterday, I've got the heater fully mounted, so now let's get cracked on, get some of the 240 volt cable wired down into the heater, get the 12 volt ignition cable ran across as well, and we'll get some of the water pipes connected up, and that'll be pretty much it for the heater. So let's get cracked on and try and get this all finished off today. Right, so as you can see, I've just drilled a 5cm dropout hole, and that hole is also going to be used to route both the gas pipe and the electric cables down under the bus, across under the flooring and back up where the gas manifold and the 240 volts and the 12 volt cables are all going to be situated as well. But obviously with any sort of gas appliance, it's always advisable to have a dropout hole right next to the connection points, or as close as possible, just in case there were any issues, and obviously there shouldn't be any issues. It's all going to be safety tested as well, but it's best practice to always have dropout holes next to any of your gas appliances as well. So I'm going to use the dropout hole as the same routing to bring the cables and the copper pipe up as well. Two birds, one stone, and it also adds that little bit of safety as well. So now the hole's drilled, I'm going to get the cables down and the gas pipe up. Right, so that's the 240 volt, the 12 volt and the copper gas pipe all fed under the van. They're all under the flooring and they're going to be poking up around about the other side of this wall where there's going to be a dropout hole for, again, some gas that's going to be coming up into the kitchen cupboards, and that's where the manifold's going to be roughly as well. So now the cables are down and fed under the van. I can now get them connected up onto the heater, get the gas pipe connected on this side, but as I say, I just can't fire it up because I don't have the rest of the gas installed yet. But let's get cracked on and get as many of the connections done as we can. Right guys, so that is the Truma heater pretty much all finished off now, or as much as I can do anyway. I've got the cold water and the hot water pipes fed. I've got the drain for the hot water with the drain pipe fed through the wall, through the floor as well as the pressure relief valve as well that comes off the hot water outlet as well. So I've got the cold coming in from the tank. It's going to be going via the drain outlet first, then up and in the cold inlet, and obviously I've got the hot going back down under the bus. That's then connected to a T-piece, and some of the hot water is going to be going off to the shower and the other one's going to come off to the sink when the kitchen's in place as well. I've got all the electrical connections all put on as well, but these are all pretty much plug and play. There's not really much you can go wrong with in regards to connecting up the electrics. All the connectors will only fit on in one place, only one way around, so you can't really go wrong connecting the control panels and things like that. And I've also got the gas pipe work connected as well. As I just can't fire it up at the moment because I don't have any 240 or 12 volt electrics or the gas manifold in place yet. But this is one of the bigger jobs I wanted to try and get done because I know this involves cutting holes in the bodywork, things like that. So I wanted to try and get this out the way before I crack on fitting the electrics and the rest of the gas. But that's how I fitted this Truma Ultrastore 10 litre hot water heater. If you're after one of these yourself, check the link in the description below. I'll link off to exactly the same place where I bought this unit. And as you can see from the years, this is exactly a brand new unit, never used, just being delivered last week and fitted in over this weekend. So there we go, that's how I fitted the Truma Ultrastore 10 litre hot water heater. As there's a couple of little things still left to do once I get the connections on for the pumps and, as I say, the gas manifold, things like that. But the main work's all done and the only things left to do is to connect up the gas on the manifold and the electrics once the electrics are in. So I hope you found this video useful of installing the Truma Ultrastore 10 litre hot water heater. As I click the link below if you're after one yourself. If you made it through to the end of the video, consider giving it a good old thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, consider giving it a subscribe as well. Lots of videos on my channel already, with plenty more still to come as part of this Mercedes minibus campervan conversion. So thanks for watching, give the video a thumbs up, and hopefully I'll see you on next week's episode. Thanks for watching, cheers.